All right, there we go. We are live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris, and this is my channel, Barnon 11970, and it is currently 7 p.m. on the 1st of November, 2017, and we're getting close to a interesting kind of rumor that's been going around lately, and I want to teach you to think in a different way and to not let others dictate what you do. So I hope you'll listen to this whole thing, whether you listen to it live or you listen to it days or weeks later. Now, I had a video that I made back on the 18th talking about what November 4th is really all about. And in the past 24 hours, it's really starting to break through the cracks. I mean, my average videos, even though I have 40,000 subscribers, is less than 1,000 views. And it's about to hit 40,000 views, which means people out there are sharing the video and getting it out there. So thank you for that, first and foremost. But I want to talk about this. There's a couple of people that made some interesting comments on that video, and I want to share this because I want people to think differently, because otherwise you're going to let your emotions get the best of you, and no matter if you're on the left or the right, you're going to get affected by what could potentially happen. And people are starting to come in, so thank you for that and welcome. Now, on November 4th, we're not even going to assume anything's going to happen. I mean, if I've heard so many times throughout my history on YouTube of all these cataclysmic events and things that are going to happen, and they never do. So I'm not going to say that anything is going to happen. But the rumors are that supposedly Antifa is going to try and start a situation where there's a civil war. Now, again, I made a video back on the 18th that tells you what that's really about. So if you haven't had the opportunity to just watch that video, please do, because I want you to start rethinking the way things are programmed and installed into your brain, thanks to the media, the government, and even people on YouTube. So let's just assume something might be attempted, because there are people talking about they're doing some tests with EMPs and all this other stuff. Whether it happens or not, who knows? But there were people that made some legitimate arguments that I want to address, because this is very important, and how you could still protect yourself, but do it the right way. And not let the media, not let the government, not let Antifa, which is probably financed by people like George Soros, win. Now, people were saying, you know, they don't want to go out on the right and instigate things, because there's a lot of videos out there from people saying, you know, if Antifa's going to try and start a civil war, and I love the word civil and war, there's nothing civil about it, there are plenty of people on the right with guns who are going to defend themselves. And they're talking about, a lot of them are getting very emotionally charged. And I've seen many videos where they're like, you know, bring it on. Because if you're going to come to us, you know, we're going to give you something you're not going to be happy about. And I basically explained in my other video how that's exactly what they want you to do. Now, I want you to think about this. Most people nowadays pay attention to things like fake news. People know that word. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I've been telling people the news has been fake way before it became popular with Donald Trump. But more and more people are starting to understand what's going on and how the fake news is out there. And I'm talking mainstream media like CNN, MSNBC, CBS, and yes, even Fox News. And then you have places like on YouTube where there's the Young Turks and BuzzFeed and all of these other places where you can see it's pretty obvious they're agenda-driven. Now, if we know anything about the mainstream media, they tend to be very biased, very one-sided, and not very honest. So here's the thing. There have been plenty of people saying in the comment section, and it's well justified, that if Antifa were to try and do anything, people are not going to go instigate, but they are not going to just stand there and take it. In other words, they're going to defend themselves. And that's perfectly fine. But this is what I want you to do. This is the most important part. So I need you to share this with anybody that's making these kind of videos. Because if you know anything about the mainstream media, they are going to distort things. They can easily edit things in videos to make situations look differently than what they really were. So let's say, for example, and, God forbid, Allah forbid, whoever you pray to or believe in, forbid something does happen in Antifa, which is probably, like I said, sponsored by people like George Soros and other people that are kind of, pushing an agenda. Let's say they start something. Well, if you meet them out in the streets or in the parking lots or at the parks or at the beach or, in the mountains or wherever it happens, it's now going to be the media's word against yours. Because let's say that even if the situation were to occur, and I'm saying if, and even if the Antifa group instigates it, and you are defending yourself, and let's say you have guns, well, who's to say the media isn't going to make you out to be the bad guy? Or say you're the one that initiated, and show things in a different perspective. So if you are outside somewhere on November 4th, and if something actually happens, well, they could spin it any way they want, and it's their word against yours. And you'll know channels like mine, for the most part, are going to be silenced. Because as soon as this video, before it even processes, YouTube's going to already label it unadvertiser friendly. They want to make sure it doesn't get out there for the people to think for themselves. So now, if you stay in your home and somebody comes and enters your property and tries to start something violent, well, you have the right to protect yourself. And how would the media be able to spin that if you are in your home and somebody or a group of people come to you trying to start trouble? How would they be able to spin that one? But if you're out in the middle of the street, if you're out in the middle of the city, if you're out on the road, if you're out in a park, if you're out anywhere else, they can spin it any way they want. And we know they tend to spin things in ways that are not honest. And sometimes just flat out lies. So whether this is a bunch of people that really believe in their cause, or people that are financed to create an agenda, it doesn't matter. It only matters if you decide to participate in it. So make no mistake, when I made the other video saying we should just stay at home and not participate, that doesn't mean, just allow somebody to come into your house, rob you blind, and you sit there and say, I'm going to turn the other cheek. No, you have the absolute right to defend yourself. But if you play their game, they're going to call you out. They're going to use emotions. They might even call you a coward. They might even gang up. They might even instigate to try and push you into doing what they want. And if you allow the emotion to control you, even if you feel justified, they've won. So don't be a puppet. But you are allowed to defend yourself. So if you are on your property, and you're minding your own business, you're not sitting there with a bunch of your friends, drinking beer, having guns out, saying, come on over. If you're just sitting there minding your own business, and then a bunch of people start trying to do terroristic threats to you, you have every right to defend yourself, and they won't be able to spin it. But you cannot guarantee that if you go out to meet them outside of your property. Because then will that be looked upon as an offense or a defense? Now remember, the news is going to get out there. The news is going to market this. The mainstream media with their cameras and their influence and their money are going to spin this. If you think they're going to spin it in the honest way, you're fooling yourself. So the idea is to not play their game the way they want you to. Now, again, this is provided that this even happens. I mean, where I live in New York, I've never had to worry about driving down the road and seeing a bunch of people standing across it and trying to block traffic. I've never witnessed any of this stuff that's being shown on the mainstream media. Now, they could either be real events or they could be staged events. I mean, if you're not aware of it, look up terms like crisis actor, which I always find funny. It has the word ISIS in it. There are people who actually get paid to pretend to have an event happen. Now, does that mean every single event you see on TV is staged? I can't guarantee that, but I would seriously doubt that would be the case. But is everything you see on TV 100% honest? No. So you have to ask yourself, do you want to put your fate in the hands of the media, who will spin this in most likely a dishonest way? So I am hoping that November 4th comes and goes like many times where people have said certain situations are going to happen. But we have seen recently the shooting in Las Vegas. Whether it was the way they say it was, I'll leave that up to you. We see the situation that just happened on Halloween in New York, where it wasn't a gun, it was a vehicle. So there is some tension out there. And I've always said they try and use your emotion against you. And especially when it comes to your right to bear arms. There are plenty of people who have such passion for that they may not think straight. And governments and politicians and corporations know how to use your emotions against you. That's why when you look at advertisements on the television, it is usually about trying to get your emotions. Because a beer commercial will never speak to you logically. Because if a beer commercial was to speak logically, they talk about the fact that it's a toxin, it could kill you. You're not going to be most likely hanging out with a bunch of supermodels in bikinis on a beach with all your, model friends. They're going to talk about how it's a popular thing to do at a party, how you're going to feel cool, how everybody's going to like you if you have a particular brand. So they're all about spinning the truth to get you emotionally involved. And Americans especially are very passionate about their Constitution. So there are people who will use your emotions against you and make you think you're justified. And protecting yourself is one of your rights. You have every right to protect yourself. I'm not going to sit here and say, just put your hands up and dance around throwing daisies. It just doesn't work that way. But have them, if it's going to happen, come to you. So you have every right to defend yourself, and the media cannot spin it. Because, God forbid, if Antifa was to enter your property and go into your house, and some news media was trying to, spin it, how are they really going to spin it? Because a picture tells 1,000 words, is better than 1,000 words, or whatever it is. But a video is going to do a lot more. So what are they going to do? Spin it that you're some evil person who somehow convinced them to come onto your property? Now, some people may do that. You don't want to use entrapment as justification. So beat people at their game if you are going to participate in it. Because the biggest thing I've said to people is don't put yourself in the position to even play the game. If the game is rigged, you're not going to win. And even if you do win, the majority of people will not. And whether you're on the left or on the right, if they have the situation occur the way many people are talking about, they're going to do their best to create more laws and use the scenario to justify why the average person should not have guns anymore and how it's a different time and how it needs to be regulated. And many people who are not knowledgeable enough to know what's going on and just believe everything the mainstream media tells you are going to be very swayed by the influences of the media and the governments. And if you think they're honest, well, then believe everything they say. But as they say, by their deeds you shall know them. Now, I'm not going to make this a very long video, and you can see barely anybody is paying attention to this right now, which means YouTube is trying to do a very good job of hiding this. And that's fine. That just says to me I'm on the right track. I want people to think logically. I want people to see me not as somebody on the left or somebody on the right, but somebody with common sense that speak to both sides. Because if they create laws that restrict your freedoms, it's not going to be one specific group that suffers. It's going to be everyone. So even the people that are maybe potentially being paid to do these situations can have their freedoms restricted as well. So it's going to affect everybody except for the politicians, because as we could see with what's going on and what has been going on with government, that they can get away with things that you and I would be thrown in jail for. So the laws don't necessarily tend to apply to them. So be very careful about that. So my recommendation is to stay at home. Mind your own business. Be prepared. Be diligent. But let them come to you so you don't have to worry about the mainstream media trying to flip it in any way that is not what the truth was. Because who do you think the average person is going to believe? Some gun-toting person out in the middle of the street shooting people, and the media shows the clips where you supposedly look like you're shooting first? Or being at home minding your own business and somebody enters your property and they threaten you and you defend yourself? Who do you think the average people are going to really go for and trust and believe? So you do have the right to defend yourself. And I recommend people always be prepared. But don't live in fear. Don't let the hatred and the anger and the frustration of what some people are even doing on a YouTube video make you paranoid or say, you know, let's just bring it on. Because be careful what you wish for, you may get it. The idea is to no longer play their game the way they set the rules. Because even if you feel justified, even if you are 100% right, if they spin it so you look like the bad guy, people are going to believe it and gang up against you. And you could see that on YouTube. When somebody has an agenda against somebody, like I had people on my We Love Comics channel saying all these lies about me and making up all this ridiculous stuff. Instead of people actually researching it or talking to me or actually going to channels like this one to see that I'm nothing like they claim me to be, they tend to just believe it because it's easier to be in a group, even if they're wrong, than to be the individual that might be attacked by them, even if it's just name-calling. So the average person wants to pretend that they don't want to be bothered. They don't want to rock the boat. So if they see video clips on the news with you looking to be the aggressor, even if that is 100% false, how are you going to debate it? How are you going to defend yourself? You will not be able to. So think smarter than that. If everybody was to stay home, minding their own business, even if 10,000 people that were paid or just really believed in their cause that were on the Antifa side were marching in the streets with pitchforks and torches, trying to instigate everybody to come on in, if nobody participates, then what does that show? It shows they're the aggressor. And what does it show? It shows we're not going to fall into their trap and participate in their game. Because like you've seen with the situation with the DNC, where people were getting paid to start fights at Trump rallies, they would get their hospital bills paid for. They would even be bailed out of jail. So if two sides end up clashing, and somebody in the Antifa side gets injured or thrown in jail, make no mistake, there are going to be potentially dirty politicians and dirty people in the mainstream media who are going to bail them out, who are going to pay their bills, and they'll make potentially a lot of money doing this. That's why some people are willing to stoop that low. To me, it's disgusting. I don't care how poor I've ever gotten. I would never sell out my country and my fellow humans for some fiat dollars. But sadly, there are some people that would murder for that, or do a lot worse. So unfortunately, there are some very despicable people out there, but that doesn't mean everybody on Antifa's side is that way. They're going to get people, again, to use their emotions to have them join the crowd. And if the majority of people are thinking in one way, even if somebody doesn't agree, they might still join the cause because of insecurities they have and the fear of being opposite of what the masses think. And that's why it's very easy to silence truth, because if the masses are misled and they believe that misleading information or situation to be true, since most people never investigate anything and just believe everything they're told, even if they're completely wrong, the majority will side on it. And if somebody goes against what they believe in, It's almost like a personal attack, and that's where the emotions come in. And this is why so many people end up being tricked into doing the dirty work for other people. So while the elites, the billionaire corporation owners, the government politicians, and even the media, while they're basically sitting at home watching all this, if it were to play out the way they want, they're going to create laws that will affect everyone, including on the side that may have gotten paid or do it for fun or in the wrong. Because both sides are always going to believe they're right, because they wouldn't fight for something if they didn't believe in it. So are both right or both wrong, or are they both being played like puppets for somebody else's entertainment? It's almost like if you go back to the Roman days, where the emperor would have two gladiators fight to the death for his or her, well, it was men. Sorry, ladies, but, you know, the Romans, the emperors were all men, but for their pleasure. So these two or bunches of people would fight each other to the death, or at least to try and hurt each other to win the game, so an emperor can sit back and enjoy and profit from everything that surrounds it. The masses are like the people that are in the crowd cheering on the gladiators. They're just glad they're not down there having to fight. And they would rather watch it than to try and stop it. So don't help the masses who are just too busy with the NFL, or too busy learning about the Kardashians, or too busy having their own personal parties or agendas going on. The average person just doesn't want to think logically. They don't want to plan ahead. They don't want to feel anything other than what everybody else is telling them to feel. So even if you think you are 100% right, and you could be justified with that feeling, it doesn't mean when there's an agenda-driven situation that happens that they're going to ever give you the light of day to make yourself be justified with how right you are. And how many people have said time and time again, they love what I talk about. They love how I try and do things without the emotion and speak very logically, and how I make sense. If you look at the video I made on October 18th about this initial November 4th situation, time and time again, I get new subscribers telling me how much they loved what I spoke about. But yet I still have people that will attack me, still people believing certain lies about me. Plenty of people never seeing my channel or even knowing it exists. Because right now, there's only 48 people watching. I have almost 40,000 subscribers. So they're going to do their best to change situations in their direction. So please, I'm not saying anything is going to happen on November 4th. Better to be prepared and something not happen than not be prepared and something does happen. It's almost like insurance for your car. You never buy insurance with the hope that you're going to get into an accident. But if you ever got into an accident and you don't have insurance, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So the idea is to not be paranoid, not be afraid, but be prepared just in case something happens. So if Antifa, or whoever they spin it out to be, decides to want to go out in the middle of the streets, in the middle of your town, in the middle of your city, to create chaos, well, don't meet them head on. Don't let them trick you. Stay at home. And if they invade your space, you have the right to defend yourself. But let them come to you if it comes down to that, so the media cannot spin it in any way that makes you look like the aggressor or the person that's in the wrong. Because the media will lie. The media will take things out of context. They will shoot things in certain frames to make you look like the bad guy, even when you're 100% right and 100% justified. So don't help them do it. Be careful what you wish for, you may get it. And if there ever was the extreme part of a civil war, do you think any good is going to ever come out of that? Even if you're really great at your shooting ability, even if you have 50 guns with 50 friends, shooting people left and right, you think you're going to be a winner when all that dust settles? You think there aren't going to be new laws that restrict your freedom? Because remember, to have a gun in this country legally, you have to have it registered. So they know who you are. You don't think after all the dust settles and the smoke clears, they're not going to come for your guns after a situation like that? Even if it was 100% justified? If you're out in the streets, think about it. Play the game differently if you're going to play it. My advice is to not play the game at all. But if you're going to play their game, you're going to lose, especially if you play it the way they really want you to. Because they're going to use your emotions against you, and you could see how easily that can influence people to put them in a direction they would not normally think about if they were thinking logically. And that is what my video is all about. So videos like this need to be shared if you think they will help. Because my video on November 4th, the one I made 2 weeks ago, as of 48 hours ago, it had less than 400 views per hour. Average about 200 views per hour. Now it's averaging, in the past 24 hours, over 1,300 views per hour. Every hour. Because people like you cared enough to share it. And finally, one of my videos got to see the light of day. And that's thanks to you. So thank you for that. But be smart. I'm not going to sit here and say an event is going to happen. I'm not going to sit here and just pander to people and, stroke their egos either. I'm going to say what I feel is what's going to make us better people and do things in a better way. I may not say it perfectly. As you can see, I'm not in some millionaire's studio. I don't have $1 million equipment. I'm not reading off a cue card that somebody else wrote telling me what to say. So I may not get it perfect. I'm not here in a suit and tie looking all professional with some, piece of paper that says I'm a smart person because some college told me enough of my, programming to be certified in whatever it is they taught. I'm just a regular person that's tired of being lied to, tired of playing their game and not winning, doing things differently. They want you to participate. They want you out there. They want you so emotionally upset and angry and justified that you will go do something that you will regret later on. And I promise you, if you go out there with guns a-blazing, justified or not, you are going to regret that when the smoke clears. And everybody on either side is going to pay the price, and all of our freedoms, even the people that are in the Coliseum in the audience, pretending, they're having a good time and cheering on their favorite, gladiator and glad that they're not there, even they're going to be affected. Pay attention to what's really going on. You have more control over things than you believe, and they don't want you to think that way. Because if they did, news channels would all be about questioning things and logic, not just telling you how to think, not asking people all the time about their opinions and their feelings. That's not news. That's not investigative reporting. So be smarter than that. Think for yourself. Think logically. Wait at home, and if God forbid something happens, let them come to you and defend yourself. Or play their game and take your chances. That's up to you. I can't tell you how to live your life. But there are always consequences for what you do and sometimes what you don't do. All right, so it seems they cut me off a little bit. So I'm just going to say thank you very much. I always appreciate everything. Hit subscribe, share this, and don't be surprised when YouTube does stuff like this. It just means that I'm on the right track because they don't like common sense. They don't like free thinkers. They want obedient workers who will do everything that they're told without question. Don't be those people. Now I will end the video before they try and do it again. Peace.